Think about the first day you started your job. Think about how happy and excited you were. Raise your hand if you were happy. Now think about how happy you are now in that job. If you are just as happy or happier, raise your hand. Okay. The great thing about humanity is that we're all different. But the odd thing about humanity is that we all follow a similar path through life. We go to school, then we go to high school, then at the age of 18, we have to make a decision that influences the entire rest of our life. At 18, we barely know ourselves. We barely know about the world. We've barely traveled. This is so early to be making this kind of decision. But we make one anyway. Imagine school is like going on a tour through a chocolate factory. You get to go through all these rooms, get to try all these chocolates, get to try about 15 or so flavors. Some of the chocolates are amazing and have hazelnut and caramel inside them, which I love. Some of the chocolates are not so amazing. They might have chili peppers or wasabi inside them, which I don't love. Those were the statistics and calculus subjects for me. So at the end of the tour, you get to a room and there's 100 chocolates. And you get to pick one of those chocolates that you can eat every day for the rest of your life. How do we know which chocolate to choose? We've only tried a few of them. We're not qualified to make this decision. But we make one anyway. And we go to college or we start working, we get more responsibilities, we earn more money, we buy cars, we get a mortgage, we have a family, and then we pay for our kids to go through the same process. Then, hopefully, we get to retire, and maybe then we can try some more flavors of chocolates. But we might not have the health or the energy to do so. In 2013, Forbes published an article that said unhappy employees outnumber happy employees 2 to 1 worldwide. This scenario exists in countries all around the world, where we get a job, we work in a particular field based off a decision we made when we were 18, working for someone else most of the time, with very little time throughout the year to do something else or pursue a dream or travel. In Bronnie Ware's book titled The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, the number 1 regret of the dying was not having the courage to live your own life, but instead living the life someone else expects you to. At 18, my decision was to study psychology and marketing at university. And I thought, this is great. I'll learn about behavior, I'll help the people around me. And in my third year, I got to a subject called research methods, which is basically testing whether tests test what they're supposed to test. We used a program that was pretty much Microsoft Excel, but on steroids. And I found out that I did not like statistics, and I failed spectacularly. Someone put wasabi in my psychology chocolate. So I felt like I couldn't continue down this road. Luckily, I'd also been studying marketing, which is one of those chocolates with hazelnut and caramel inside. And I continued down this path, graduated, got a job, and worked in marketing for 3 years. But I felt that this isn't what I wanted to do. I didn't see myself in the role at 30. I felt like it wasn't the place I was supposed to be. So I quit my job, sold everything I had, got a backpack, and booked a ticket around the world. Fast forward 18 months. It was my 4th day of hiking. We were walking on a thin trail around the side of a mountain. The sky was blue. The winds whispered through the valley below us. My Sherpa and I were at 12,000 feet. And as we walked around the corner, I saw it for the first time. This beast off in the distance. Mount Everest. And at that moment, I saw some movement out of the corner of my eye. It was this golden eagle soaring through the valley below me, effortlessly. And I stopped to take it all in, and my Sherpa goes, Mr. Louis, come on. And I held up my hand silently, and he understood. I didn't take out my camera because no photo would ever do this justice. I'm one of those kids that dreams of flying almost every night, and as if the view of Everest couldn't get any more magical, when I saw that eagle, I knew this was exactly where I was supposed to be. Since then, I've been to 55 countries, hitchhiked Scandinavia, volunteered in Africa, skydived and base jumped in over a dozen countries, and camped deep in the Namibian desert. And I made a video of my travels that went viral and has now reached more than 7 million people around the world. I'm going to show you a little bit of it. Since the video, people have been contacting me almost every day asking how I did it and how they can do it too. They want to know the story behind the story. How I took a leap into the unknown, which to some might seem reckless, but to others, courageous or inspiring. People love to tell stories. So I was hiking up this mountain one day with some mates I met the week before. And there was a castle at the top of the mountain. And the castle had a huge drawbridge. So we found the box, we got into the box, operated the drawbridge, and as it was lowering, the chain snapped and the drawbridge came down with a huge thud and echoed through the valley. So we ran across the drawbridge, we had our parachutes on our backs, we ran up into the castle, into the towers, along the stone wall, and we stood on the very edge about to take another leap. And I thought, I could be staring at a computer screen in an office right now. These are the kinds of experiences I'll remember for the rest of my life. Travel makes you a storyteller. But change is one of the hardest decisions people make. When we get into this work cycle, we get more responsibilities, we earn more money, we buy more things, and we then have to work harder to afford the things that we don't have the time to use. We sacrifice our health and our happiness to make money, and then we spend all of our money trying to get back our health and our happiness. Globally, humans are migrating to big cities all over the world in the hopes of earning more income, and global property prices have increased. Our generation is the least likely to own a property than any generation before it. Yet we still follow this path to get a job, get a mortgage, and then struggle to pay it off for the next 30 years. We work so hard that we forget why we started in the first place. We forget how happy we were when we first got the job. After my travels, I landed in New York about a year ago, and I had no job, no money, and a backpack full of really smelly clothes. And being in the 7th most expensive city in the world, I decided it was a good idea to try and start a company. But 1 year later, with clients in 4 countries over 3 continents, we've worked with major brands, and now I have the ability to do the work from wherever I am in the world from my laptop. Creating a digital marketing agency has allowed me to turn my passion into my career, to continue to travel and jump off more castles. But don't worry, Dirk, I won't jump off UBIWiltz. This lifestyle, however, isn't for everyone. And it isn't all glory, as so many Instagram accounts depict. Many nights are spent late trying to meet deadlines, and sometimes the pressure's a lot. But the ability to do it from wherever I am, whenever I like, is the draw card. And I'm as happy as the day I started. I've learned a few things from my travels and from spending some time with some amazing people. Firstly, awareness. Awareness of the people around you, awareness of the issues they face, awareness of the problems that exist in the world and how lucky we are to have what we have. I'm amazed, almost mesmerized, when I see clean drinking water come out of the tap in the kitchen. Culture. There is no better way to learn about culture than to immerse yourself in one that is not your own. Communication. Don't be afraid, step out of your comfort zone. I read this quote: "Conversation, like certain portions of the anatomy, always runs more smoothly when lubricated." Perspective. J.M. Barrie says, nothing is really work unless you would rather be doing something else. And tolerance. Paul McCartney. I used to think anyone doing anything weird was weird. Now I know that it is the people that call others weird that are weird. How relevant it is to speak of tolerance in 2016. These lessons are applicable to the entire world and go hand in hand with travel. Imagine if there was a way that we could support this learning. Some countries have support mechanisms in place that allow people to take time off from work to pursue a dream or travel. And in other countries, it's the norm to take a year off to travel the world. In Belgium has a time scheduling system where for every one lifetime you get 1 year of allocated paid leave. If you use this leave to look after a sick family member or to further educate yourself, you get an increased allowance. And this has resulted in a higher work and life satisfaction. And Belgium being the chocolate capital of the world, maybe this isn't such a coincidence. Belgium is a pretty unique example, and not all countries have government support structure for people to take time off. But in many countries, it's not only socially acceptable, but the norm to take a year off to travel. In Ghana, it's very common for people to take a year off after their compulsory military service. And most people use this time to travel. Our friendly neighbours, the Kiwis, use the term OE, short for Overseas Experience. The New Zealand government officially recognises the benefits of young people travelling the world upon their return, being work and life satisfaction and a wider outlook on life. And it's even referred to as a formal qualification, asked in interviews, have you done your OE? In the UK, it's very common for young people to travel, and if you've spent any time in Southeast Asia over the summer there, you'll wonder if there's anyone young left in England. And if I had to go through a winter in England, I'd probably do the same thing. Now, it's ironic saying this as an Australian because more often than not, you'll meet an Australian on the road and the conversation usually goes, hey mate, how long are you travelling for? And the answer can range from a few weeks to a few years. Very common for young Australians to travel. We have a concept called a gap year where you can accept your enrolment into a university and then you don't have to start your studies till a year later, and a lot of young Australians use this time to travel or volunteer. Or it could be that we're so far away from everyone else we have to travel for that long to justify the time it takes to get there. In the US, more and more colleges are taking this gap year on board. They also have national work community service programs to allow young people to earn money during this time. Now, this is great progress, but for those employed, Americans experience the least amount of paid vacation. In fact, the US is the only country in the industrialized world that's government does not require any paid vacation for employees. It's up to the private enterprises to provide this, and for those that do, it's usually about 10 days. There are over 60 countries in the world that provide at least a minimum of 30 days paid vacation, including Austria, Sweden, Italy, and Luxembourg. So we have some countries that have support mechanisms in place for people to take time off, and we have some colleges that provide gap year opportunities. And there are also some businesses that provide sabbaticals for their employees. There are also individuals that take it upon themselves to take time off, notably the late Steve Jobs. Steve quit college, got a job, saved some money, and then went to India for 7 months. What he learned in India has influenced his decisions he made in his future career at Apple. Stefan Sagmaster, a world-renowned graphic designer. He runs an agency in New York City, and every 7 years he closes his agency for 1 year to pursue personal passion projects. He says it gives him a chance to refocus his thoughts and energy on what he really wants to do in his life. He gets to try things he otherwise wouldn't have the time to try, and he gets to explore design concepts that he otherwise wouldn't be able to do in the context of his company. One more story. So I was walking along the beach in Zanzibar off the coast of Tanzania, and I hear a shout, hey mate, can you give us a hand? This led to 10 of us dragging a heavy anchor out to sea during low tide. The guy that yelled out was named Simon, better known in the digital world as the Nomadic Diaries. Simon's been travelling for 3 years to 21 countries, over 45,000 kilometres, and he's doing most of it without using money. He doesn't like money. He doesn't want money. He doesn't keep money. He's hitchhiked around the world, bartering for food, board, and adventure, and volunteers with conservation efforts wherever he goes. And he's currently in Goa, India. This is a guy who decided he didn't want to follow the same path as everybody else and pursue his passion for travel. Whenever anyone asks me about the cost for travel, I tell them this story. You don't need to be rich to travel. Often it's just a plane ticket that you need to get, and you'll be amazed at how you can figure out the rest. So I referred a lot to the concept of a year off. But if you are living completely in the moment, doing everything you want to do, fully focused, then this isn't a year off, is it? I'd like to introduce you to the concept of a year on. A year where you can do what really makes you happy, whether it's starting a company, writing a book, learning an instrument, learning a language, or traveling the world. The most important part is that we take a particular amount of time in our life to do something different from what we were doing before. Imagine all the chocolates that you could try. Imagine if everyone in his or her life could have 1 year on. Imagine if you could have 1 year on. What would you do? Thank you.